Hare Krishna. We're studying the final verse of the 6th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 6, entitled Creation of the Universal Form. And we're on text 40. It's March 23rd, 2024. And so we have books and we have the verse written up here. And we'll start with the Sanskrit words. Yato prapya yavartanta vachash cha manasa saha aham chanya ime devas tasmai bhagavate namaha. Yato prapya nyavartanta vachascha manasa saha aham chanya ime devas tasmai bhagavate namaha. Yato prapya nyavartanta vachascha manasa saha aham chanya ime devas tasmai bhagavate namaha. Others.
Yato prapya nyavartanta vachascha manasa saha aham chanya me devas my bhagavate namaha.
Tasmai bhagavate namaha.
Yato prapya nivartanta
Yato prapya nyavartanta
vachascha manasa saha
vachascha manasa saha
aham chanya ime devas
tasmai
bhagavate namaha.
bhagavate namaha. Would anyone else like to chant the verse in person or online? Going once, twice. Okay. Then we'll look at the word meanings. We'll look at the word meanings responsibly. Yata, from whom? Aprapya, being unable to measure. Yavartanta, cease to try. Bacha, words. Cha, also. Manasa, with the mind. Saha, with. Aham cha, also the ego. Anye, other. Ime, all these. Deva, demigods. Tasmai, unto him. Bhagavate, unto the personality of Godhead. Nama, offer obeisances. Translation. Words, mind, and ego, with their respective controlling demigods, have failed to achieve success in knowing the supreme personality of Godhead. Therefore, we simply have to offer our respectful obeisances unto him as a matter of sanity. Hare Krishna. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The froggish calculator may raise the objection that if the absolute is unknowable even by the controlling deities of speech, mind, and ego, namely the Vedas, Brahma, Rudra, and all the demigods headed by Brihaspati, then why should the devotees be so interested in this unknown object? The answer is that the transcendental ecstasy enjoyed by the devotees in delineating the pastimes of the Lord is certainly unknown to non-devotees and mental speculators. Unless one relishes transcendental joy, naturally one will come back from his speculations and concocted conclusions because he will see them as neither factual nor enjoyable. The devotees can at least know that the absolute truth is the supreme personality of Godhead Vishnu, as the Vedic hymns confirm. Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam Sarapashyanti Suraya. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 15, also confirms this fact. Vedesh Chasaver Ham Eva Vedya. By culture of Vedic knowledge, one must know Lord Krishna and should not falsely speculate on the word aham or I. The only method for understanding the supreme truth is devotional service, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 18.55. Bhakti Mama Bijanati Yavanyaschasmi Tatvata. Only by devotional service can one know that the ultimate truth is the personality of Godhead, and that Brahman and Paramatma are only his partial features. This is confirmed in this verse by the great sage Maitreya. With devotion, he offers his sincere surrender, Nama, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavate. One has to follow in the footsteps of great sages and devotees like Maitreya and Vidura, Maharaj Parikshit, and Shukadev Goswami, and engage in the transcendental devotional service of the Lord if one would know his ultimate feature, which is above Brahman and Paramatma. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the third canto, 6th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Creation of the Universal Form. Continuing, we'll recite a few more mantras to continue to invoke auspiciousness in our association. Om Anganatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Tarati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragana Tanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Scha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanu Sute Devi Hanamami Hari Priye Vancha Kaupate Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Toto Jayamutirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances of the personality of Godhead Narayan, and to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesh vabhadreshu nityam bhagavata seve bhagavat utama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 6, Text 40. Yato prapyanya vartanta vachascha manasa saha aham chanya ime devas tasmai bhagavate namaha. Words, mind, and ego, with their respective controlling demigods, have failed to achieve success in knowing the Supreme Personality of God. Therefore, we simply have to offer our respectful obeisances unto him as a matter of sanity. Well, we can just kind of like follow on that last word there, sanity, that kind of stands out. So then what's the opposite? Insanity. Okay, I'm reminded, of course, Srila Prabhupada, and all of you know his aspects of his biography. And so Srila Prabhupada, he came on the Jaladuta in 1965, and through Boston Harbor, Butler, Pennsylvania, through Philadelphia back to New York, and then right. So then he established, he had some followers, and he established his. We have some sound competition in the ether here. Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Perfect. Yeah, right. It's like every moment in existence, we have that choice: focus there or Bhagavatam. So it's like a microcosm of the whole material existence right here. Couldn't have written a more perfect script. So Srila Prabhupada, yeah, so he established his first center on the Lower East Side of the Greenwich Village, Lower East Side, Second Avenue. And his first publication, he entitled "Who's Crazy?" That was his first publication. I mean, before he came to America, he published the first 3 editions of the the 3 volumes, first Bhagavatam. But because like he would go out with his early followers, and they would chant like that there, and then Prabhupada was hearing a lot. You're crazy. You're all crazy. So Prabhupada thought about it, and he thought, someone here is crazy. It's true. Yeah. Let's look at it. So his first publication is entitled "Who's Crazy?" And yeah, so he looked at it like, okay, it's like I remember, we actually use that in the advanced course. We do. So just like makes it really difficult to stay with. Like,
See where it fits in.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, duality, yes, clearly. I don't know if it's Maya or Krishna, but there's some higher order happening here. So, back about 10 years ago, I was in Colorado, and some of you have heard me tell this, but I was invited to give a presentation. Invited to give a presentation to a hospital group. So it was a veterans hospital in Golden, Colorado. It was organized by Dr. Govinda. And so the audience was medical, doctors, nurses, some psychiatrists, some social workers. But I started the presentation, I said, okay, let's say someone comes to you and they say, I've hurt my finger. So in that simple phrase, my finger, there are 2 entities. There's the finger, and there's the owner of the finger. So I asked the doctors and nurses, who are you treating? Are you treating the finger or the owner of the finger? So they sat there, they looked a little stunned. The director of the hospital system was there. After a few moments, he said, well, that's a simple question, David. They said, we never thought about it. I said, yeah, it's an important question because, the finger, it's made of the same stuff as this table. I made the lampshade. It's dead matter. There is no healing potency in the finger. It's dead matter. The healing potency is in that irreducible quantum of consciousness. That's the owner of the finger. So that's where we started. So just analogy Prabhupada often uses, there's the car and the driver of the car. It's like the body. And then there's the atomic unit of sentience, the spirit soul, that's the owner of the body. And so we don't want to neglect the car. we don't want to neglect the car. At the same time, if we get distracted in caring for the car, making sure it's washed and has the fluids and the gas, and we neglect to nurture and care for the driver of the car. All right, well, then we're in the opposite of sanity. We can say if someone has, yeah, you don't look good. It doesn't look like you've taken a bath or a shower in months. It doesn't look like you've eaten or no. The windshield wiper it's topped off. The windshield wiper liquid and we just changed the hubcaps. Well, okay, that's the car, but what about you? Okay, so Prabhupada, that's where he goes in that publication, that if we're just taking care of the shell without even inquiry, then so here in Krishna consciousness, our focus is not to neglect the car. Kamasya Nendriya Pritir, Labo Jide Tayavata, Jivasi Taka Jigasa Nartayas, Che Karma B. Life's desires should not be directed towards just caring for the car. Or maybe a slightly more subtle analogy, there's the computer. Right? We're not the hardware, we're not the software. Software is like subtle material energy, mind, intelligence, false ego. We're the operator of the computer. Right? So human life is meant for inquiry into the absolute truth. And so, yes, let's preserve the body and keeping the priority. So Prabhupada's making the point. Yeah, and if we're just taking care of the car, completely neglecting even to cultivate realization that I'm the driver, he's saying, my opinion is that's crazy. So he's in agreement. Someone here is crazy, and we get to take a look. And it's not easy because there's the well-known example of like lemmings, right? And lemmings, I don't know if it's a real thing, but I've seen some Disney film about. So the lemmings, they'll just like go and just massive amounts of lemmings. They're kind of these penguin type entities, and then they'll just kind of like fall off the cliff and just one after. I've heard a rumor that Disney just arranged that back in the 1930s to create a film. But anyway, we can get the point. Like everyone is just like without even just like gravity. You don't even think about just like obviously to enjoy the body. That's the goal of life. Not self-realization and realizing the distinction between the car and the owner of the car. And and so yeah, so this is a revolutionary platform. Actually, it's described in the Bhagavatam that the Bhagavatam is meant for revolution. It's meant to create a revolution, not just some violent, ignorant revolution where say goodbye to the old boss, hello to the new boss, but a revolution in consciousness. It's actually described. Tadbad Visargo Janataga Viplavo Yasmin Pratishoka Yabada Batyapi Namanyanantasya Yashon Kintanyat Shimbantika Antigrinanti Sadava. Narada Muni speaking to Vyasadeva. And Narada Muni is saying that, yeah, this Bhagavatam, this is for the swan-like human beings. There's in the verse before, he talks about Tatvaya Samtirtam. He talks about literature. That's a pilgrimage place for crows. There's in every species, there's distinction. So like the birds, the birds, there's the crows, and they'll go for where the blood is and the garbage and like that. And it's interesting if we look at it, because it wasn't like till that point Vyasadeva was writing cheap romance novels or something. I mean, he gave us like the Upanishads. He gave us the Mahabharata. He gave us, he gave us the Atharva Veda. And that, what would Narada Muni say about today's literature? Anyway, so, yeah, so Narada says it's like pilgrimage place for quotes. But the Bhagavatam, which he was inspiring Vyasadeva, I would say, to write, but to write, it's not like ordinary, I wrote a book. Like the Bhagavatam is eternal, and Srila Vyasadeva revealed it after revealing his despondency to Narada Muni, because Vyasadeva saw that he gave all these amazing Vedic literatures, and people would miss the point. People would miss the point. Then after hearing from Narada Muni, Bhakti Yogena Manasi Samyak Pranihite Male, that then he went into a trance of bhakti, and as a result, Chakra Samhita, Satvata Samhita, then he revealed the Bhagavatam, which is like for swans, these swan-like people. And so, so Narada was seeing this. Narada was seeing this, and he said, yes, in this Bhagavatam, we can even see this text from Narada Muni. We can, I should call it permissible conjecture. The text from Narada Muni predicts Srila Prabhupada 5,000 years later. Because Narada Muni is saying that this Bhagavatam that you're about to reveal, that this is meant to create a revolution in the consciousness of this misguided civilization of Kali Yuga. Now, if we look at history, of course, Bhagavatam is appreciated by Vaishnavas, in different places, in different villages in Bharatvarsh in India, but historically, we're not really seeing where Bhagavatam created a planetary revolution in consciousness. Till Srila Prabhupada, starting in the 1960s, Srila Prabhupada gave us Srimad Bhagavatam. So you can see that predicting Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada's giving Srimad Bhagavatam. So Maitreya, he's exploring about creation. And so it's like his whole, he's just in awe. He's in awe in his exploration here. So this is like this about sanity. Who's crazy? Revolution in consciousness. One of you has staff Sappho seminars, if someone here has done that. And I'm just thinking, our intention is not just like communication or transformation. Our intention is really, in all of the programs of transformative communication, our intention is really to serve and expand Srimad Bhagavatam. So at our staff meetings, our staff trainings before we start a seminar, I don't know if I should be revealing this, but we say, okay, so what's our intention going into the seminar, staff and facilitator? What's our intention? I said, well, empathy, self-realization, yeah, all that. Our intention is that right from the beginning through the entire 3 days or seven days, for all the participants, we want to disturb their thinking. We say that right there at the staff training. We want to disrupt their thinking. Okay. So that's disruption to create an opening to alternate paradigm. Disruption to create an alternate paradigm. Alternate paradigm where, that first of all, like opening up to those distinctively human questions. Those distinctively human questions. Who am I? What's the purpose of life? Am I this vehicle? Am I this vehicle? And so Srila Prabhupada, he talks here about absolute truth. So this is more and more as time goes on, this idea of, okay, this idea of absolute is seen as, like, I guess the term would be politically incorrect. Now, by absolute, we're meaning that which is true, good, and beautiful in all time and space. Okay. So if I say, I'm David Wolf, I'm 63 years old, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that's relative truth. Was I David Wolf from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania 1,000,000,000 years ago? What about 1,000,000,000 years from now? So, so Prabhupada references a verse here from the Bhagavatam. Vedanti tat tatvavidas tatpamyaj ganamadvaya brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. That the absolute truth is realized in three aspects. There's the oneness, then there's God in the heart. Krishna says, Sarvasya Jaham Vidhi Sto. And he says, I'm situated in the heart of all living entities, and Andantarasta Parmanu Chantarastam Eko Pyaso Vichaitum Jagadanda Koti Yachaktyasti Jagadanda Chayaranda Andantarasta Parmanu Chantarastam Govinda Mari Pusham Tamaham Bhajami. So that's Lord Brahman, Brahma Samhita saying that, yes, that Krishna he's all the super souls. We can call it, he's the metacosmic super soul. That's called Mahavishnu. Krishna is the macrocosmic super soul. That's Garbhodakashai Vishnu. And he's the microcosmic super soul, the Kshirodakashai Vishnu. That's a full expansion of Krishna sitting right next to us in the area of the heart, and in each atom, and so, and then the source of the oneness and the source of the expanses of God in the heart, that's Bhagavan iti shabdyate, that's Bhagavan Sri Krishna. So this, we talked about this on Sunday, that this Vasudev, the all-pervading person, transcendental personhood, this is the very substratum of all existence. So this gets to the foundation of all truths. And so from a Bhagavatam point of view, Bhagavad Gita point of view, such hearing and chanting, this is where we're meant to focus. Not like meant like you should or thou shalt not, but in terms of like you and I, we want to be happy. We want to be fulfilled. We want to feel powerful. We want to experience peace and security. So only when we get to the very substratum of existence and serve that transcendental person with love and devotion will we get that happiness. So of course we can do whatever we want. Krishna speaks the entire Bhagavad Gita, and in the closure says to Arjuna, he says, okay, Arjuna, do as you wish to do. Do as you wish to do. Krishna is not saying, I don't care what you do. No, Krishna's caring. He wants Arjuna to choose wisely, no force. Once there's force, there's no luck. Like that. So this, okay, I'll talk. What's coming to me here is about like openness. More and more, I'll call it the postmodern era. The postmodern era is characterized by an incredulity towards the possibility of foundations for knowledge. That's some French postmodernists said that. Okay, Lyotard or Foucault or someone like that. Okay, and by incredulity to the possible. So what it means is like it's more and more as that influence expands. I mean, there's different influence. You might say there's expansive postmodern influence. There's expansive modernist influence, like secular humanism. It's like modern science, like that. But like starting 90 years ago, that there was more and more skepticism about that whole approach, right? Because kind of with the approach that started with like Francis Bacon and Descartes, things like that. Plus, it's like, oh yeah, through positivist epistemologies, logical empiricism, then we can control nature and we'll really enjoy. And then the result is the gas chambers in the Holocaust. And the result is we've advanced so much, and now like we don't have clean air to breathe. And I mean, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but essentially, like, is this really working? So then that led to the postmodern era. And then there's also another major movement on the planet, the fundamentalist movement. The fundamentalist movement, whether it's Islam or Christianity. So we got this kind of like the pre-modern era fundamentalist, and we got the modern era secular humanism, and we got the postmodern era, like the green movement, and things like that. And each, I'll this could be, of course, a whole series of books, but I say if we look at if we look at the valuable contributions and the woeful shortcomings of each, what Prabhupada gave Bhakti, what Lord Chaitanya gave Achintya Beta Beta Tattva, that includes and transcends all that is auspicious about all those movements. And we'll just make a footnote there. So the idea is like the idea is there is no absolute objective truth. Of course, that lends itself to there is no absolute truth. That lends itself to. Are you sure? Oh yeah. Are you absolutely sure? Then the game's over. Game's over, isn't it? Yeah. And then what it's become is kind of like the idea. Sometimes it comes to like the only possible objective virtue is openness, open-mindedness. That's the only possible objective virtue. And to be open is a quality. It's a spiritual quality, it's a sattvic quality. We're not denigrating. But then it's like to the point where openness is like the sole possible virtue, to the point where to be unprincipled means that you're principled. Because once you have any like objective absolute truth principle, oh well, that means you're closed-minded. Now this is it's all warped, deluded thinking, but we want to understand what's happening in people's psyches and in the world more and more. Maybe some of you have heard me quote this, but I got this from a book by Bela called Habits of the Heart. Yeah, Habits of the Heart. So there was a valedictorian at Harvard University, maybe late 80s. So he was chosen to give the talk amongst the graduates, and he started his talk there at Harvard University. And started his talk, and he said, ladies and gentlemen, there's one experience that we've all shared at this fine institution of higher learning. And that experience, ladies and gentlemen, is confusion. Somehow, at that point in his speech, they didn't get the big cane and start dragging him off. Confusion. And he went on and said, the freedom of our day is the freedom to devote ourselves to any value we choose, on the mere condition that we don't actually believe it to be true. That's a formula for the opposite of sanity. No, we'll just open whatever your values are. But if you actually believe them to be true, then you're some sort of like primitive backward, bigoted person or something. So openness it is a Vaishnav quality. It's a devotional quality, not to be closed because I'm so insecure that I can't be open to other points of view. No, we're meant to be open, and open not as like the virtue in itself, but openness as an instrumental virtue that brings us to objective truth. Let's just say a simple example. Let's say in first grade, I was open to hear from Mrs. Gerbard. I trusted her, and I have no regrets. I was open to hear from Mrs. Gerbard, and because I was open to hear, I learned objective, absolute truth. 3 + 3 = 6. Now someone can say, "You're saying that's objective truth. You're closed-minded." No, I'm not. I'm actually quite open-minded. Still, I'm like, you show me evidence that 3 + 3 is something other than 6. I'm really open. And so I'm open, and I've used openness to come to objective truth. So similarly, like Krishna's tomorrow's Gaur Purni, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, he says, you like logic and argument? Use your propensities for logic and argument to apply it to the philosophy given by Lord Chaitanya. You'll find it to be strikingly wonderful. You'll find it to be strikingly wonderful. Yeah. So, and then there's in Western philosophy, Immanuel Kant, right, has his book, Critique of Pure Reason. So it's very consistent with Vedic epistemology. And just, we can use reason, and then it has its limits. So through reason, we can understand, oh, I'm not the body. The body always changes, yet there's some constant identity. I call David Wolf, I call Dhira Govinda Das. Oh, okay. So there's something, call it antimatter, call it soul, whatever. And we can understand. That's where Maitreya is going. Like he's explored all the dimensions of and he can understand, okay, so there's an intelligence greater than me. Okay, just like, if we look at this watch, we say, how did the watch form? So we could say, well, obviously, the wind blew, and there was the watch. You say, no, that's not very intelligent. No, there's like a person with a brain, an engineer, and then there's a factory director, and there's intelligence behind this watch. Now, the level of structure, the level of sophistication behind the rotation of the planets and the veins and the leaves is trillions of times greater, right? So again, logic means there's an intelligence behind the veins of a leaf that's at least trillions of times greater than okay, that's like that. All right. So through logic, we can get somewhere. Through logic, we'll never get that supreme personal intelligence loves to play a flute, and his favorite pastimes are with someone named Srimati Radharani. We'll never get there through logic. Then there's different ways of knowing, and that's described here. So it's described in Bhagavad Gita. Ham sarvasya prabhavamata sarvam pravartate iti mat bhavajante mam Buddha bhava samanvita. So Krishna says, I'm the source of all these material and spiritual energies. And when we get that, we realize that, then naturally, that's the spirit of Maitreya here that I'm seeing. Then naturally, we surrender. Naturally, we surrender. And Krishna says later in that chapter, Attava Bhamatena Kim Gatena Tabarjuna Vistabhyamidam Kritsnam Ekam Shinas Tojaga. Krishna says one kind of like one who's already Prabhupada uses that term, one who's already ecstatic, joyful in bhakti, then they don't need all this detailed knowledge. At the same time, Krishna gives dozens and dozens of ways in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. He gives dozens and dozens of ways to know him through nature, to know God, to know Krishna through nature. And to come to that, to come to that we'll call it that epistemology of bhakti, of pure bhakti. And so I'm reminded there's a poem that Prabhupada wrote honoring his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. And Bhakti Siddhanta particularly was moved by one couplet. Prabhupada wrote, absolute is sentient, thou hast proved. Impersonal calamity, thou hast moved. Okay. It's beyond brilliant. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, essential truth spoken concisely is true eloquence. So there's transcendental eloquence. Absolute is sentient. So let's unpack that. Sentient means senses. Sentient means senses. Absolute. So the absolute is sentient. We discussed this a bit on, because you were there on Sunday. Right? Okay. So the absolute is the absolute nothing. Is the absolute the spiritual white light. It's the absolute matter, the absolute mind, even spirit, soul. Again, the absolute is Vasudeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Oh my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, all-pervading personality of Godhead. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. That's the substratum of all existence. So the absolute is sentient, means have senses. Absolute sentient, thou hast proved. So let's just look at that. So the absolute senses. Okay. So no, this means something. Just like, okay, what's it mean? It means like if I get that and I don't run from that really like that would really indicate about like important reference point for my choices like every moment. Okay. But just like what does senses mean? Just like I got senses. Okay. So I got a tongue. And there are some things some taste I like, something, and there are some colors I like to look at, some colors I don't. Some things I like, some things I don't like. And some fragrances, oh, this is sweet. Oh, this is a foul odor. Okay. All right. So there's the absolute's a person. The absolutes, the absolute's a person, which means we're talking really, if we're truly talking about pleasing God, or we can talk being spirit, yeah. Okay. Because otherwise, if we try to just like in Bhagavatam, their stories of like demons trying to smash God with a club and things like that. Okay. So that's happening now, but the idea is let's try to smash God with our philosophies, our rationalizations. So, no, I want to be spiritual, but just take the sentience away from the absolute. So what's it mean? It means like I can do anything I want and call it spiritual. I can do anything I want. And if you try to impose any principles or values, you're just not open-minded. We discussed that about 20 minutes ago. Yes, open-mindedness as an instrumental virtue. Okay, so absolute sentient means like if I really want to please God, it means learning. Learning. Okay, what can I do to please Krishna? What will I do that won't be pleased? Well, let's just make a distinction. We had, that was part of the exchange between Padmanabha Swami and myself this past Sunday. Because sometimes people say, God or Krishna or Jesus loves me no matter what I do. Yeah, and that's not really a very important question. Like it's true, but what's that have to do with anything? Yeah, just like let's take the example. Say a child can be like yeah. Actually, this was a few weeks ago. Ramachandra and Mina were here, and Ramachandra was already familiar because Ramachandra resided here back during the pandemic years ago. So and so just basic guidelines that like if I'm in a session, then no sounds in the kitchen, and Ramachandra already knows that. And Mina was inquiring, and Ramachandra said, no, it's simple. And I said, because I've had dozens of people live here since I moved in 2012. And I said, of all, everyone who's ever lived here, it's never been a problem of someone honoring that when I'm in a session, not to come around the kitchen dining room there. Never been a problem, except for one person who lived here where it was a problem, and her name was Sita Wolf. And Mina said, oh, she's your daughter. She knew she could get away with it. She knew she could. I said, yeah. I feel understood. Yeah. So of course the parents always love the children. And that means whatever the children do, the mom or dad, they're equally pleased. No, wrong. No, wrong. I would have been more pleased if Sita didn't make noise in the kitchen. I was like, but do I continue to love her? And yes, of course. Okay. So of course Krishna always loves us, God always loves us. And there are things we can do that are pleasing and that are displeasing. So the question is, yes, Krishna always loves us. That's not the question. Because what am I doing to show that I have some drop of seriousness to show appreciation and love for Krishna? That gets to be the question. So that's where, if we try to take the sentience, the senses away from the absolute, the supreme, then in the name of, I do whatever I want, I'm spiritual. But even that I do whatever I want, it's not that. It's kind of like, just like, I quoted the valedictorian at Harvard, the freedom of our day is the freedom to do it. I do whatever I want, but it's based on the illusion that I'm the car. It's based on the illusion that I am that I'm. So most everything that goes in the name of freedom in this day is slavery. Means like, wherever my tongue, wherever my genitals, wherever my mind wants to go, I do that because I'm free. No, I mean, that means I'm a slave. I'm a slave to the dead demands of the bodily senses and the false ego. So actual freedom is the capacity to commit ourselves to our genuine highest good. Actual freedom is the capacity to commit ourselves to our genuine highest good. And that highest good, that's where Maitreya is going here in Vidura, that's self-realization, realizing who I am as not the car, as the driver of the car, realizing, yes, my actual happiness is in that service that can never be destroyed by anything material, service to the absolute truth, to Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, then that's a bliss. That's a bliss that is that will never be crushed by time, and that requires discipline. Just like, okay, Prabhupada writes, the answer is that the transcendental ecstasy enjoyed by the devotees in delineating the pastimes of the Lord is certainly unknown to non-devotees and mental speculators. So the pastimes, Bhagavatam means the pastimes of Krishna, the pastimes of God. So here's the thing, we're going to glorify pastimes. We're going to do it. The question is, whose pastimes, whose form, whose qualities are we going to glorify? We can all look. We probably glorified maybe someone in the field of entertainment, a singer or an actor, or maybe in the political sphere, or maybe a sports hero, or an intellectual. So we're going to glorify pastimes. So that propensity is there. This process of bhakti, this process of Krishna consciousness, it's completely, it's world embracing. It's not world rejecting. It's about looking at all our propensities and how to dovetail them in a way that actually brings us to the ecstasy described in this verse and purport. So we're going to glorify, and we're going to direct that towards God and God's pure devotees. Then we connect with the bliss. We're going to do austerity in the human form. We're going to do austerity. Nayam dehu dayam pajami loke kastan kamamarte did bujami tapu divam puchakene sattvam shuddhya jasma brahmasa come to anantam. Even someone says, oh, I don't want to do it. I'm just enjoying life. I mean, I just want to. No, I mean, of course, I go to this job that I hate 50 hours a week, and then Could I come home, drink some beer, and I'm not going to do any austerity. I'm not one of those. I mean, austerity means you're going to give up some immediate pleasure for the senses to achieve something that you trust will give a longer term fulfillment. Oh yeah, to go to this job every day. I trust, then that way I won't be homeless and my family, and so whether it's like, yeah, rather than go to the beach or the pub every day, every weekend. Now I'm going to study those books. I'm doing some austerity, get that college degree, get that university degree. In human life, we won't avoid austerity. So again, the encouragement, tapo, is to direct our austerity in a way that brings us towards realization of and loving devotion to the absolute truth. And the guideline is here. We're going to serve. Bob Dylan had a song. You got to serve somebody. And he got it right there. So you're going to serve the devil, or you're going to serve God, essentially. And so we're going to serve. We're going to serve our belly. We're going to serve our community. We're going to serve our family. And so, it's encouraged. We direct our service towards the root of the tree. That's Sri Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Then nothing is neglected. Then nothing is neglected. All the branches, leaves, twigs are naturally nourished. One more analogy before closing. All borrowed or just shamelessly stolen from Srila Prabhupada. So like, let's say if we, this comes from Prabhupada, if we, so this is personalism, absolute is sentient. Let's say if we find a wallet on the street, and the wallet represents everything, whether it's this house, or the car, or the money in the bank account, or the relationships, we find a wallet. So material mentality is like, wow, there's $800 in credit cards. Whoa, okay, I get to enjoy. Okay. Then a mentality that's a little more noble than that is like, here's a wallet, it's got money, it's got credit cards, driver's license. This is not mine. This is not mine to enjoy. I will not touch it. A little more noble. That represents kind of like a non-personal approach to the absolute. And then the personal approach is, here's a wallet. This is not for me to enjoy, but it is for someone to enjoy. It's not my wallet, but it is someone's. Let me find the owner and return it to the owner. It's his to enjoy the credit cards and the $800. Okay. Then we feel most in integrity. So the owner of all the wallets, all the relations, all the energies, including the energy of this body. Because to understand, I'm not this body. This is my body. I'm not the body. That's a beginning. But more than that, it's not even my body. I'm just renting. I don't own it. This is Krishna's wallet. So let me use it in Krishna's service. Let's return it to the owner. We were discussing this morning right before japa. We read some excerpts from Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada was talking about the Maha Mantra is a prayer, and I commented, Maha Mantra, names of God. And Lord Chaitanya, we have a picture of Lord Chaitanya tomorrow. It's his appearance day. Yage Sankirtana Prayaya Janti Sumeda Saha. He gave us this Sankirtan. Kirtan means to describe the glories of the Lord. Yes, and so the chanting the names of God. This is it's a prayer. It's a prayer for please engage me in your service, and simultaneously it's the answer to the prayer, because the foundation of all service is chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's like, oh Krishna, please engage in your service. But that's the mood of the chanting, and then the chanting, that Shravanam Kirtan, is the essence of the service, and from there all other services get realized, revealed, and expanded. I'll read the text again, text 40, chapter 6, canto 3, Srimad Bhagavatam. Yato prapyanya vartanta vachascha manasa saha aham chanya ime devas tasmai bhagavate namaha. Words, mind, and ego, with their respective controlling demigods, have failed to achieve success in knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, we simply have to offer our respectful obeisances unto him as a matter of sanity. Hare Krishna. Thanks for your presence and attention. Thanks for giving your consciousness and hearing power to Srimad Bhagavatam. I welcome at this time any comments, questions, realizations anyone would like to share or ask. Rachel.
Thank you. I've asked this question before, but yeah, I would say that I have a friend group.
Yeah.
Very new agey,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember somebody came on to a reverend came on to have this discussion.
Yeah.
And at the end, she said, like, I'm a big fan of multiple truths.
Yeah.
And then I was having a discussion with my friends about, like, there can't be multiple truths, or then there's not. Then what is truth? And so I was trying to explain what absolute truth is.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult.
It's challenging
Yeah.
in that sort of group with that sort of reverend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So one of my questions was, like, what's the difference between, maybe you've said this, but between absolute truth
Yeah.
and a fact? What's the difference between that?
Absolute truth and a fact.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a difference in, like, yeah, like you said, relative truth,
Yeah.
which, like, you know, I'm Rachel,
Yeah,
Shannon, and
yeah,
everything,
right.
into Florida. Like, to some people that could be a fact.
Yeah.
But it's also relative, like, maybe I wasn't Rachel.
Yeah.
Obviously I wasn't Rachel in past life. So yeah, like, what is the difference between fact and absolute truth in the paradigm of like God consciousness?
Yeah. And thanks for that. Thanks for that. So I appreciate the question. I mean, what's coming to me is to the relation and distinction between facts and absolute truth. So fact, yes, like there's facts, there's information, there's facts, there's information. And then, you know, that could be like facts, information about the elements of the periodic table, information, facts about the distance between Orlando and Gainesville. Okay, all right. So then, what's like alive for me in this discussion is how are we relating to those facts? How we're relating to that information? Okay, fact, body's changing. It's fact. That's important because people generally aren't conscious of that. They say, oh, the body's growing. Well, not really. The parts are replaced. I mean, there's not one molecule there that was there when I was 5 years old. So how am I relating to those facts? To what extent am I relating to them with that open-mindedness that brings me to fuller realization of, I'll use the term of objective truth, of that objective truth. To what extent am I relating to facts or information? I used the term earlier, factoid, like that. to what extent am I relating to that information in a way where I'm increasingly entangled in the illusion, of that I am this body, in the illusion of Janashimo Yamaha Mamiri, I will be happy by gratifying the senses of this body. So facts within the material sphere, information in the material sphere, we can spiritualize them. And then we give meaning to the extent that we relate, we utilize that information, we utilize those facts in a way that's aligned with the process of bhakti, aligned with the process of atato brahma jigyasa, jivasya tattva jigyasa, of inquiry into that which is objective and absolute, then the energy that constitutes those facts and that information, then they become spiritualized. Then they're no longer Maya. Case, have a comment?
It's a question, but first,
Sure.
thank you for class and for having us here.
I'm very glad you're here.
Speaking about relating to truth.
Yeah.
facts, I hope it's okay to ask something. I hope it's okay to ask something somewhat personal.
Please.
How do you relate to Paramatma?
Paramount super soul in the heart. Okay. Hare Krishna. I'll see where we go with this. Okay. Well, we have some of you are graduates of our coach training program, Principles and Practice of Transformative Coaching. Some of you are in that course now. So I know we have like so many coaching skills and methods and techniques and so many processes in the courses. So we say, so I'm not saying how much realization I have about this, but say all the methods, all the skills, all the processes, all the techniques. It's about supporting the client or the family member, whoever we're ourselves, supporting us to connect with that highest guidance within. And that's that's just maybe a more secular way to say super soul in the heart. Sometimes Prabhupada uses the very cool term super consciousness. Prabhupada uses that term to relate to super soul in the heart. So my endeavor is that everything I do, whether it's this Bhagavatam discussion, whether it's conducting a coaching session later today, conducting a foundation, everything I'm doing, I'm aspiring to be guided by super soul. Okay. And yeah, and I feel like most of the time in abject failure, but I'm not discouraged because I'm definitely, I'll use the term, better at it. What's the voice of super soul? What's the voice of false ego? Krishna says, 18th chapter Bhagavad Gita, Machita Sarvadorgani Mat Prasada Tarishasi Atachat Famahankaram Vinokshas Nakanshasi Vinokshasi. Krishna says, if you follow your false ego, you'll be lost in the ocean of material life. Follow the voice of super soul in the heart, and then you easily cross over to that ocean. So I'm getting better to distinguish what's my mind, what's the false ego, what's super soul. Each year I'm getting better. So even if it's just like 1 inch of progress and there's still a million miles to go, it's like that inch of progress is worth than millions of miles of advancement on any other path. And so, okay. So I can say, I mean, I have thousands. Okay, I'm just gonna. I see Anandini. She's visiting from Switzerland. She just left, but she has a pearl, so I'm going to read it. Hare Krishna, thank you for class and discussion. I have a pearl. Absolute truth is that which is true, good, and beautiful in all time and space. Thank you, Anandini. Okay. I have thousands of experiences where I'm confused, mental, all in my entangled, grungy stuff, this and that. And I'll like start chanting japa like for 10 seconds and just like clears what to do, what to not to. I just think, or sometimes not even like I'm confused and anxiety, but just kind of like, how am I going to respond to that email? Or this, the situation in the seminar later today, or just this interpersonal discussion coming up. And I'm like, just really, I'm really lost here. And I like chant japa, I would say for an hour or two, but sometimes literally like 10 seconds. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and I get realization, revelation I would not get if I sat and tried to think about it for 1,000 years. So that's super soul. And so that and I'm getting that more and more as my life goes on, far from like steadily connected there. So that's definitely super soul. We can do and not just chant. Sometimes I'll be in that state, like, oh, how am I going to handle that? And oh, and how am I going to manage my time today? There's 10 million things to do, and this and that. Sometimes I'll pick up, like this morning, I picked up Chaitanya Charitamrita, and just had a lot of confusion going on, messy in my mind. Like 2 minutes, 1 page into Prabhupada's purports, just clear as day, like the sun lights up everything. Not just like what Prabhupada was saying, but just like how I'm going to handle my life today and what like that. And that's okay. So my relation with Paramatma, mainly my relationship with Paramatma, Soul, Super Soul in the Heart, is my relationship with A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So Super Soul in the Heart, that's Chaitya Guru. So Srila Prabhupada is a perfect, complete, unfailing representative of Super Soul in the Heart. Because I think I'm more and more effective at making the distinction, what's super soul, what's my tricky mind and material ego. And at the same time, like, yeah, that by hearing from Srila Prabhupada, following his instructions, endeavoring with some sincerity to serve his movement, reading his books, hearing his lectures, that's super soul speaking to me, 100%, unfailingly. So Hare Krishna. Thank you, Casey. Thanks for the question. Any other questions, comments? Dr. Hugo.
Appreciating on that last point as well. I was living in the Denver Temple Ashram for a period of time, and as I was leaving, I spent some time, particularly with the Prabhupada disciples there, just to kind of absorb some of their wisdom. And Ramraj Prabhu was there, and I spent some time just spending time with him and asked him about some key tips in bhakti.
Yeah.
And he told me a very interesting thing that's really resonated in my mind ever since. And he told me that every day there are thousands and thousands of opportunities and moments in the day. And so many moments come up where you can either make the Krishna conscious choice or the mundane choice. And he said, if you make the mundane choice, nothing bad is going to happen. There's no lightning bolt that's going to like strike you down, or you're not immediately going to fall into the great well of material illusion. But he said, if you do the Krishna conscious choice, then it's like immediately you're going to be plugged into that current of bhakti.
Yeah.
And then to accumulate that over time.
Yeah.
And so, also what you were sharing, how even 10 seconds of japa is so clear, and even 2 minutes of reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita is so clear. Yeah, just reflecting, I've gotten to experience that a lot in my bhakti journey as well, especially when I was in the ashram.
Yeah.
And when there was that 24/7 engagement, Harinam, okay,
No.
no one wants to go because these people have service, and that person, okay, they're out of town, so there's only 2 of us that can go, and we have to get the car and the parking and everything, and it's kind of raining, so should we even go? Well, there are going to be people. But no matter what, whether it was a kirtan or a harinam or a class or Mongol arti, like every single time I made that decision to make an extra step, like, okay, let's just do it. Like, ecstasy flows in pretty quickly after that. And for me, the fascinating reflection is, as soon as I'm away from that, it only takes a few weeks, few days, few hours, maybe a few minutes. before something, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's so difficult. But then more and more like training that muscle to make bhakti the instinctual reaction to any kind of stress in life. And it's a very powerful experience to have, to feel that instinct building up more and more.
Yeah.
Where like my recreation, my rest, my nourishment, my fuel is bhakti, as opposed to whatever other habits I've built up over many lifetimes, at least the past 25 years or so. Appreciate that point.
Thank you, Dr. Hugo. I appreciate you sharing. Yeah. I was talking to someone recently about like, yeah, different habits in different areas, regulative principles. And yeah, and it was like, we kind of emphasize the point. It's not like you can't do this. And like, I'm reminded of a quote I've heard attributed to Saint Augustine. He said, we're not punished for sin. We're punished by sin. And sin, defined as anything that I do, say, or think that further alienates me from myself and from clean connection with source. That's it. Okay. And so so whenever I do something that I know is like, this isn't the Krishna conscious choice, it's not even about bad, good, feel guilt. It's just like immediately I feel that alienation. And then I can relate to that as, oh, that's Krishna's mercy to like wake up, like let's make those Krishna conscious choices. And then I appreciate your sharing back to Hugo. Make those choices, experience more of a higher taste. Param drishtra nivartante. And yeah, and then with that, and then that's encouraging us. And then, it's just like the whole path, or let's say, okay, speaking for myself. So I'll make those relatively Krishna conscious choices, feeling some drops of the ecstasy like that. Oh, wow. And then, some service. And I can say for sure, if I look back over the 45 years or so, like any time I've spent reading Prabhupada's books, chanting Hare Krishna, even when there's really other really important things to do, I have like no regret of any moment spent with Prabhupada's books. And like I know like the longer my to-do list, then I know it's most even more important. Clear 30 minutes to read Prabhupada's books, chant an extra round. Otherwise, I'll relate to that to-do list in a rajasic or tamasic way, and I'll create more problems and like that. And so, yeah. And so, we, so like, yeah, I think I'm feeling some drop, maybe not the ecstasy, like that, but like some relief from material miseries like that, and feeling some joy like that. And then, whoa, I'm doing great. I got it. Okay. And then like next moment, like I'm gonna like go to the refrigerator for some emotional eating or go to the internet like that and just for like, what did I just do for the past 4 hours? And then I think it's a biblical saying, pride comes before the fall, and then I'm smashed. What happened there? I see there's a comment online from Parampara Prabhu.
Hi, Krishna. Thank you, dear Govinda Prabhu. Earlier you were speaking, you mentioned about God's unconditional love, and you mentioned Christ and how that can be like kind of the end of the conversation of just Christ's unconditional love. And we celebrate that, but that can be celebrated, and or God's unconditional love that can be celebrated. And then, but there's nothing beyond that. And then taking a step beyond that to, so what can I do to show appreciation or show some sincerity, some interpretation for that unconditional love? What can I do to please God? And it reminded me of, I did a quick search, I couldn't find it, but it was this lecture I was listening to from Srila Prabhupada where he was speaking on this point somewhat, and you could hear the emotion in his voice of he was expressing, like, God's given you everything, and then like, you what do you have to give him?
Hmm.
You don't have anything to give him, but you can give, offer this whatever you have, and it's anyway. So that was a pearl for me to connect with that, remembering that like emotion I was hearing in Srila Prabhupada's voice whenever he was speaking about this point, and somewhat related. Also, you just mentioned, the quote about we're not punished for sin, we're punished by sin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Easter's coming up. Gaur Purnim's on Sunday. Easter's the following Sunday. I like to draw parallels between Jesus Christ and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So perhaps it's on my mind more than usual. Christ consciousness. Also, I'm watching this Chosen series, the Jesus series. But anyway, so I heard this Christian teacher, and at least he was expounding a certain point of Christian philosophy, that it's not that we need to wait for Christ to come back. That it's like the kingdom of Christ is at hand now.
Hmm.
The kingdom of God is at the hand now, and their perspective was that Jesus Christ is king, and his kingdom is in effect now, and so it's like whether you like it or not, you're kind of going to be whether you surrender or you don't surrender, it doesn't matter. It's still because Christ's kingdom is in effect, and he was saying that basically Jesus Christ, and his way of pointing it was Jesus as king is not punishing. He's not doing the punishing. We're punished by the sin. The sin is how we're being punished. So I appreciated that perspective.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thanks for all those points. Yeah. And thanks for that. Yeah. The Gaur Purnim. And next week is Easter. Tomorrow is also Purim.
Actually, today.
Today's Purim. Okay. I think from today's sunset to tomorrow's sunset. Yeah. We Purim is it's a Jewish holiday. It's not like one or two, but it's maybe in the top 7 or something like that. And it's a holiday where people kind of dress up a little bit in costume, a little bit Halloween style. So I know when we were serving in Israel, we would go because Purim always coincides lunar calendar. It always coincides with Gaur Purnim. So we go out on the streets of usually Tel Aviv, sometimes Haifa, and we do Harinam Sankirtan, full devotional clothes. And so we saw some. They were actually dressing up as Hare Krishnas, and they would join the Harinam, and everyone got all confused, like who's the real Hare Krishnas and who's the one who's just. And then everyone got swept up in the ecstasy. Yeah, and I'm remembering one lecture from Prabhupada. It might be the one we're referring to, and Prabhupada's talking about Srila Sanatan Goswami. And Srila Sanatan Goswami, and so he had his Radha, his Madan Mohan deities, and he was keeping them in a tree, right? Tattva Tunam Mashesha Mandala Pati, Srinam Sada Srinim Tuchavat, Bhutva Dina Ganesha Kal Karunaya Kopina Kantashrita. They're just wearing kopins, a different tree every night. And Gopi Bhava Samritabdi Lahari Kalola Magno Muhur Bande Basanatana Ragu Yugal Sri Jiva Gopala Kal, absorbed in the mood of the gopis. And of course they had a lot to give up. They were all very quite rich and wealthy and famous. But I know, so he was worshiping in the tree, and he would offer some chapati. And so just to get an idea of Sanatan Goswami's advancement, the deity spoke to him like, well, can I have some salt? And Sanatan Goswami said, well, you need to just accept what you're offered like that. So quite a great relationship. So when Prabhupada was describing this, so he was describing Sanatan Goswami. Sanatan Goswami said, sir, this is what I have. You need to accept it. Of course, as time went on, Sanatan Goswami constructed this huge temple for Madhu with very elaborate offerings. So because Prabhupada was making that point, and Parampara just made, the Krishna doesn't need anything. He's got all the wallets. he's just looking for our love and devotion. So when Prabhupada was narrating that, sir, just please take whatever I have to offer you with my heart. Prabhupada broke down in tears. Please, please take this. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.